Hello, classroom teachers and other lovely people in the education world. I'm Biz, and I am back in the chair this week to share with you, I think, what is the 5th PDA vlog. It's been a little bit since I've been sitting here recording for you. The clouds are crazy today, so you might only be able to see me for half this video. I don't know, who knows? But today we are going to be talking about student engagement and slideshows. And I bet even saying slideshows has struck a chord with some of you. Some of you are probably wondering, like, is she gonna say that slideshows are the devil? Or is she gonna say we should use slideshows? What? Anyways, I guess you're just gonna have to keep watching. This week's expert advice comes from an article called Reducing Dependence on Slides by a lady named Miriam Platinsky. And the gist of that article was that ultimately, when we rely on things like slideshows, we increase teacher talk, decrease student talk and discussions, and ultimately student engagement. And so although the article was partially about how we can get away from using slideshows and using more student discussion, there was part of that talked about making slideshows more engaging. And I thought right now that would be a good thing to talk about, because as we're in distance learning, we know that there's not a lot of ideal ways to get information to our students. Ideally, they'd be with us, right, in person. And I know, at least in our district, we're doing asynchronous learning, and so having a slideshow or some kind of content on our learning management system for them to access at any point in time they can is really the direction that we have to go. And so sometimes slideshows are really a simple way for us to do that. So we should talk, however, about how we can make those the best we possibly can. So that's where our instructional tip comes from this week, is making those slideshows more engaging, more interactive, and I just wanted to share a few ways that we can be doing that. So tip number one when it comes to slideshows is streamline. Some of the feedback that I have received from students during this emergency distance learning is that it's obviously already a stressful time for them, and if they log onto a course and it seems really overwhelming, they decide, you know what, I can't do that. It doesn't seem approachable right now. It doesn't feel like I can accomplish that. I'm gonna go to a different course where I feel like I can accomplish something. And so they're really picking and choosing what they dedicate all of their energy to. So make sure that your course is something that seems reasonable and is approachable from the start. And some of that is how you get them that information. And so if it's a slideshow that's really intense, that might be one of those things that make your students go, I can't achieve that right now. It's just too much. I'm gonna go do something else instead. For the love, please don't make slideshows that are insanely long. I don't want to log into a slideshow that has been shared with me and see something that's like more than 25 slides. That's really intimidating, and it just immediately from the get-go you're like, oh, this is overwhelming. Try to make it the most important information possible. And I really want you to think long and hard about what that means. As teachers, it can be really easy for us to be like, well, all the information's important, because we feel like it all is. But reduce it down to the most essential details and bullet point them. Do not put large pieces of text. Don't put paragraphs. Don't put like a bullet point, but then a ton of information underneath it. If you're using multiple bullet points, alternate colors. It makes it more difficult for students to miss essential information when their eyes actually kind of have to switch back and forth between those colors. But yes, less is more. We've been hearing that, I think, a lot during this distance learning process, but the same applies to slideshows. Less is more. The second tip that I want to give you to make slideshows more engaging is to actually make them interactive. A really easy way to do this, especially if you're using Google Slides, is to share your Google Slide document with your students or give them a shareable link and allow them to comment on it. When you do this, you can create ways for them to respond to questions that might initiate some prior knowledge for them. You can do formative checks. You can actually create some student discussion happening on there as well. With those, that kind of initiating prior knowledge, you can put some questions at the beginning of your slideshow that actually instructs them to respond to it, and they can see each other's responses. That brings up maybe some of that schema that they had before about a topic that just, brings it fresh to the mind. In doing formative checks, maybe partway through your slideshow, you have some questions that you want them to respond to make sure that they're getting all that information. If you want to keep it private rather than having students comment right there, you can insert a link to like a Google form or a poll everywhere where students can respond to that kind of formative check, and you'd be the only one that would see it. And then you can also create those open-ended questions or post those in the slideshow that really get students kind of in that higher level thinking, where their responses are not necessarily going to be kind of like recall responses or right or wrong answers, but it's going to get that really good discussion going that creates good student engagement and deep learning. Students can comment on Google Slides and then they can reply to each other, so you actually get that discussion happening. We do have discussion boards on most learning management systems, like on Schoology, for example, but this is just a little bit more immediate. It's right there, and it's a little bit more like snippets of information and quick conversations rather than a big detailed discussion post. And then along with making them interactive is to give students things to do within your slideshow rather than just reading information and taking it in and being expected to take notes or whatever it is. You can insert other hyperlinks for videos that are interesting, for podcasts, for short articles, or maybe it's a website that gives them some kind of practice they can do, but embed that within the slideshow so that, like I said, it's interactive for them. They're doing something with it rather than just being expected to sit and get all that information. So just to kind of sum up, slideshows are not ideal. This situation is not ideal, but we can make slideshows better than those slideshows that we all have sat through that we've just thought like, oh, is this just gonna go on forever and ever? And could this be any less interesting? So if you use slideshows, hopefully this gives you a few ideas to make them more engaging for students and to actually make them interactive, actually getting that discussion going and using it as a platform for formative checks rather than just being information that you throw out into the world and hope something good happens with it. So good luck this next week. I know we only have a few weeks left before summertime. Hang in there. Happy teaching. I went casual this week, y'all. We're not getting fancy, but yesterday I don't know if I can show you. I got a new Baby Yoda hoodie. I have like not taken it off. Yeah, so in honor of that, we also have Baby Yoda joining us this week. Here he is. Look at his cute little face. Don't you just want to squeeze his cheeks? Here, you sit here for a second. I want to see what it looks like.
Okay. Is it recording?
Yeah, it is. You don't have to be my bloopers though. That's real creepy. You should not do that. Oh my gosh, why? Ah! Hey, you know what I was thinking earlier?
What?
Like shower thoughts. So, I realize it's not actually Baby Yoda. He's the child. Mm-hmm. He's just the same race as Yoda. But he's like super cute. But we all know that Yoda is not a particularly attractive creature. So at what point does Baby Yoda go south? Like, at what point does he get ugly?
Like when he's a teenager, you mean?
It's probably in the teenage years, but what are teenage years for him? Because he's already 50.
Maybe when he's like 250?
Whatever his adolescence is, that is for sure when it just all goes to crap. Poor Baby Yoda. Yeah. We're nerds up in this house. It just is what it is. Stop! I'm definitely in the shadows.